welcome back to ScarletSprites. Today's video is completely unscripted. It's a video that a lot of people have asked for over the past few months, and that is a tour of the basement arcade. I thought a lot about this. This would have taken me forever to script out and go machine by machine, film things that I want, and kind of piece this all together. So it's unscripted. Everything is just kind of off the cuff. It might not be everyone's cup of tea today. It's probably going to be long, so feel free to skip to the parts that you really want to see. But most importantly, if you see something that I don't explain, and I'm sure that will happen a lot, and I'm not going to go through an in-depth review of all of these machines, ask though. Please ask questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to go ahead and answer as many of those as I can. I am wearing a beanie because I'm about ready to go downstairs to the basement. Joe from GameStack giving me a hard time about why I wear a beanie indoors, and Destiny FOMO giving me a hard time about wearing a backwards baseball cap. I don't know why everyone's concerned about what I wear on my head, but anyways, that's why that's on, and we're about to hit the basement where it is a cool 53 degrees down there. Let's go ahead and take a look at those machines. Start the descent into the unfinished basement. Let's click on the lights here. The first thing everybody always sees when they come down here is this crap along the wall. So these are the PVC pipes that I use to put the laminate on top of the G.I. Joe. Remember when the glue is down, glue's on the laminate, you want a little buffer between there so that you get more than one crack at lining everything up. Speaking of G.I. Joe, this is the Fisherman's Bait control panel. Still haven't done anything with that. You can see I got a wire there that connects to the original 573 Konami board. And over here, just here's the glue I was just talking about, the Wilson Art contact adhesive. There's some primers and some things down here. So this is kind of the boring stuff. But over here, this is the staging area. You can see I got all kinds of things down here. This is my soldering iron for recapping things. Some miscellaneous screws, parts, evapo-rust, which is vital for recovering parts, and was really big for me on Virtua racing. Up top, Rust-Oleum satin. This is really good. I use this to paint both G.I. Joe and Smash TV. Gloss looks really bad, it's too shiny, and flat looks just, well, too drab, but the satin's a nice in between those two things and comes out looking really nice on cabinets. There's some clear finishes there. You can see the rapid tack on the side for doing a wet apply of graphics if I need that. And then just some cleaners. I think this is just vinegar, and then some dollar store, basically simple grain clamps, screwdriver, and then, yeah, I did say this was the staging area. You can see there's my cart and some new things that I just moved in. Be taking a look at both of these in another video, but that is a Blitz 99 that I think is running 2000 gold if I recall. I don't really care about that. And then here is a Dynamo cab that's currently running Police Trainer. All right, the first machine I'll show here is the Big Red. Got 4 games currently running inside this. There's no multi-card or anything like that. Pressing, drop down here quickly, pressing the select game button will allow me to cycle through 4 titles, and you can see the marquees light up on those. So there's Metal Slug 3 in the far left here. Watch my favorite multiplayer game for parties with casuals, League Bowling, NOM 1975. Now I do have the control panel unlocked at this point, just so I can flip it forward and show you guys a little bit the internals. And there's those 4 cartridges that are running those games, just like a console, you know, like a Super Nintendo, plugging a cartridge right into the board there. Super easy for beginners to swap games in and out. And you'll also notice here's some new pots that I installed on the monitor control board. New caps and a flyback for the monitor this year, keeping that thing looking sharp and really bright, so that's always really important. And good quality of your arcade machine. I did replace the speakers this past year as well. a little difficult to see. I don't have this top piece unlocked right now, but I put new speakers in, and if we drop down, look at the board one more time, got some RCA outs coming from the MV4F, and then that's running right into this little amplifier I have here, which is nice because it gives a nice boost to those speakers, but also lets me independently control the treble, bass, and volume. So a nice little audio upgrade for the Neo Geo. And just to the left of the Neo Geo, I got my Astro City cab. I did want to show I got this arcade 1-up NBA Jam stool. I do sometimes run the NBA Jam board on the Astro City. It's not a bad looking little stool. It's perfect for a candy cab. I guess we'll scroll up, maybe start at the top. This is another monitor that I recapped and looks really, really good, honestly. It's a nice 27-inch, where I guess in Japan they say it's a 29-inch monitor, but for us here stateside, this would be a 27-inch CRT. Some people have commented, I did do a little refresh up here on the marquee. I put green vinyl behind this, purple, blue, yellow, to kind of enhance the colors for the marquee, because that whole piece was pretty dim. But this gives it a nice facelift and makes it look pretty new. It's obviously currently running Bucky O'Hare, which if you haven't played it, it's actually worth a playthrough. I'd load it up in MAME if I were you guys and give it a shot if you never had the pleasure. But this is an original JAMA board running inside of the cabinet. Astro City, obviously, JAMA wired, and is a great cabinet for playing a multitude of games on. Anything that's JAMA is gonna run in here and plug and play pretty easily, including the Mr. Cade. Taking a look at the control panel here, this is a reproduction panel. The original on mine was pretty beat. The gentleman that goes by Alberto, he does a lot of candy cab control panels, does a really nice job on them. They're really sharp, high quality. All my buttons say Mitsu. I do prefer Seimitsu buttons and sticks over Sanwa. That's just a personal preference, but I actually really like these particular Seimitsu colors. You can see I do have the light on, but they really glow and pop under the blue light from the arcade. So Astro City, I mean, a really versatile cabinet. It's actually got a pretty small footprint too, and it rolls really easily, so you can move it around if you need to. But a fantastic cabinet, highly recommended if you're looking for a candy cab. Unfortunately, at least here on the East Coast, these are very difficult to find, and they're becoming increasingly more expensive. All right, moving on down the line, Virtua Fighter. This, for the most part, is all original. I did replace the controls on this, obviously. You know, stuff gets worn. You want a good gateway to your game. I always talk about that on videos. So, you know, your experience playing a game should be good. You want to, you know, don't cheap out on controls. The IL Euro sticks are like 15 bucks. Sometimes they're even cheaper than that. They're pretty much what most people remember playing on back in the day. Don't cheap out. Get yourself a $15 stick if you need to. Same with the buttons. These are IL buttons that I got across the board here. The control panel's in pretty good shape. You can see the nice glow of the screen off of the metallic foil. There is some peeling and flaking across the front here. Sadly, I don't think anybody makes a reproduction control panel overlay for Virtua Fighter. I've never seen it. I don't know why that is, but it just, I've never come across it. Good story for this one. I mean, this was listed on Craigslist for 400 bucks, and I just ended up messaging the guy, and I said, you know, I think I said I'd give you $250 for it, and he was offering to deliver it, and he said okay, and then I never heard from him, so I'm guessing like, hey, he didn't really want to sell it for $250 or drop this thing off for me. And I messaged him again like the next day, and he just said, oh, I actually forgot. Can I drop it off for you tonight? And so I said, of course. So, I mean, that's a hell of a deal. $250 dropped off in my garage, fully working Virtua Fighter. I know this game doesn't get a lot of love. For me, it was the game that stole my attention away from Street Fighter back in the day, and I do have a lot of love for the first one. I love those early 3D polygon graphics. Just really nostalgic for me. And this is a beast of a machine. I know I keep kind of walking back and forth here. It's pretty deep. Actually, I'll just drop down and you guys can look maybe inside here. I mean, this is a pretty deep cabinet. There's the board running Virtua Fighter there on the left. If I pan over here, I think that's the sound board amp over there. But really what I was trying to show you, this is a beast of a cabinet. It's just so deep. You could definitely, get in the fetal position and probably take a nap in there. This is just a huge cabinet. It's a big cabinet for sure. Not everybody's cup of tea, but one of my favorite games from back in the 90s. And a hell of a deal. All right, the Sega Blast City, currently running Virtua Fighter 4 Final Tune. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. This is another really great candy cab. Now the monitors on these look gorgeous when working correctly. I mean, I think you can probably tell from watching this video, but there are a lot of imperfections, a lot of convergence issues with these monitors. You can see down in the bottom right, my colors are a little off. I've fooled with this so many times with convergence strips and have messed with it, and it's just never, I'm pretty much just coming to the realization that it's just never going to be perfect, and that's okay. It still looks pretty good overall. Very similar to what we talked about with the Astro City. This is an Alberto control panel reproduction. These are also Seimitsu sticks and buttons across the top here, and I do sit on an arcade one-up stool when I play this. It's pretty good height. One of the things I did want to show, and I've talked about this years ago, but I'll show it again. I'm going to go ahead and open up the control panel. When this boots, it gives you the option to net boot any of these games. This might be a little bit tricky for me to show or see, but see, you can see it's running Virtua Fighter 4 now. But I could cycle through this list. There's other versions of Virtua Fighter. There's Virtua NBA, Virtua Strikers, and pretty much the entire Naomi library is here at my disposal to boot to the Naomi hardware via NetBoot, and also the Atomic Wave games. So you talk about a cabinet that's versatile. That's a pretty decent multi, having access to all of those games, being able to play them. Really a great cabinet, despite the flaws of the monitor. I mean, it's pretty easy to overlook those playing a game. Overall, again, it looks pretty good overall, but I'm aware where those flaws are. They do bother me from time to time. I try to fix them, but just not happening. But a great cabinet nonetheless. All right, the Midway SportStation cabinet. I did a whole video on this one. This was, I think, boy, I'll get this wrong on my own machine. I think it was Blitz 2000 Gold and NBA Showtime, but not Gold Edition. And I upgraded this. Now this is a new old stock marquee. This is not a reproduction. So that was cool. I was able to find that, cut that, and put that in here. And so it runs version 3 of both games. See Blitz is up here running on a track mode. The cool thing about this, this is a dedicated SportStation machine. So sometimes you'll see, if you look on the sides, the artwork is split. So you got the Midway logo up top. You see you got a football for Blitz. And then you come down a little bit. Oh, it's going to be hard to see. But there's the SportStation logo, and then you got Showtime down here on the bottom. Now this is nicked up a little bit, but again, I would never replace this. This is original artwork on both sides of this machine. And the point I was trying to make is that normally you would see a Blitz machine that would be converted to a SportStation and run both of these games, but in this case, this is a factory dedicated SportStation that had both of those games in it. And you can see, come back and look at the monitor shroud here. Down here in the bottom, we even got the sticker for the Showtime, and then up top is the sticker for Blitz controls. And the control panel, again, you would normally see, maybe it would say Blitz or Showtime on it, but this is just SportStation, kind of generic. It doesn't really have either on here, which is really cool. And then obviously on the front, it's got the SportStation logo. So I did do some work. You can see the T-molding across here is purple. I switched that out. It was black. Just didn't like how that looked. Not really a big deal. You can easily revert that back to black if you really want to keep this original. I did like how the purple just added a little bit more color to this, and the original black was pretty ratty anyway. It needed to come off. And the plexi that is on top of this is brand new. The original was pretty nicked up, scratched, foggy, all kinds of gunk on it. So not a ton of work, really just upgrading the machine with the software version for the games, and then putting new T-molding on here, control panel piece. I did not have to recap or do anything with the monitor. At some point I probably will, but for now, you know, it looks pretty good. So pretty great machine, always a fan favorite, Blitz and Showtime games, and great for a mainstream audience. All right, this is sad, I know. This is Virtua Cop. It's been in this shape for a few videos. You guys have probably seen it. It is original art on the side of this one. Needs some work, not a ton. And the front of this is okay. There's a little, you know, hole from where security bolt was put on here, and I'd like to clean that up. I'd like to make the front of this look a little bit nicer than it is. You can see there's a gash right here. The good news is everything works. The monitor works, board, there's the gun board there off to the left. Everything in here works. The sound amp on the floor. You can even see the manual I have tucked down here. Yeah, everything works. Guns work. I just haven't put the control panel back on because I thought I was going to clean up this piece, this base piece, and then I got sucked into G.I. Joe and Smash this summer. But I think I'll probably just put it back together and start playing it and not worry about that, because it's better used than not, and it's just been sitting in this shape for a while now. So here's the control panel for Virtua Cop that I need to put back on the cabinet. What I really liked about this machine was that it came with the original guns, these big, beefy, badass Judge Dredd looking things. And most of the guns have had to be replaced on these machines at this point. And you'll see these HAP pistols that they're pretty good actually. They're really accurate and a little bit more durable, but I like the badass look of the Judge Dredd weapons here. So I was really excited when I found these. These are really expensive if you ever find them in working condition. Really expensive actually. They've gone up in price. And I think even the HAP pistols more recently have gone up and are getting hard to find, I guess just with shortages and whatnot. But I got to get this back on Virtua Cop 2 and playing again. All right, let's get started. On the right side, this is the Konami single speaker cabinet that I made into a G.I. Joe. Now, I think a lot of you have already seen this in other videos, but these are reproduction Wicco sticks, leaf switches inside. You can hear there's no click. I did have the buttons as leaf switches as well, but I switched over to micro switches. Playing games like Sunset Riders, G.I. Joe, Turtles, it's just the leaf switches on the buttons, just it's not ideal. So this is definitely the way to go. So I did make that change on here. The other change that I made is down below. Now this might be tough to see. There are 4 buttons across where the coin returns are, and those essentially are, well, it's like dropping a quarter in. There you go. So that is what credits up. None of these Konami boards have free play, so you have to kind of get creative, and that's how I handled that. Now, this is essentially another multi, so I'll go ahead and show the back of this. Now, it's not quite as easy as Blast City or the CPS2 that I'm about to show. I'll go ahead and show this though. All right, so here we are inside the back of the Konami cabinet. And this is what I'm saying about being a multi-cabinet. Now, this is all genuine, original arcade hardware. Right now, actually over here on the left, in the back there is where Sunset Riders is. And then over on the right, we have boards for G.I. Joe, Turtles, and The Simpsons. We have the option to play all 4 of those games off of original hardware in this cabinet. All right, moving down the row, the Die Hard arcade machine. This is a Sega STV or Titan cabinet. That marquee is probably not one of my favorites. It's reproduction. I've been looking for an original put in here. Again, control panel. This will look very familiar. This is basically Virtua Fighter. The IL Euro sticks and buttons here again. Notice the graphics are a little faded. Again, nobody really does Die Hard reproduction graphics. This is a little yellowed and whatnot, but for the most part, it's serviceable, obviously. I did do a speaker replacement. You might be able to see with actually the way the light's hitting this. I did change these out to Pioneer speakers inside, which sound pretty good, coming direct audio RCA outs from the Sega Titan board that's inside of here. I'll show the amp for that in a second. Monitor looks pretty good. If you remember when I got this, the monitor was super blurry and dim, so a cap kit and a new flyback took care of that, and the monitor looks really good, honestly. Nice and bright and sharp now. Run all these Sega Titan games. So I did just mention the amp. If you drop down, I cheated a little bit. So if you open up the bottom of this cabinet, no coin bucket, the amplifiers in there, again, for bass, treble, and volume control. And audio sounds really good off of this, as you might expect. So just like most of the machines here in the basement, this cabinet runs multiple games. It's currently running Die Hard because I had people over who I would assume would want to play Die Hard and not Cotton or something a little bit more niche. But this is running the Darksoft STV multi-cart. Speaking of beasts of cabinets, this is the Capcom Big Blue, currently running Super Street Fighter 2 Grandmaster Challenge. It's a beautiful cabinet. I think a lot of people probably remember playing some version of Street Fighter on this machine at some point back in the day. Again, really crisp monitor. I did this one, new cap kit, new flyback, and control panel. Again, new joysticks, new buttons. I did have a bit of a dilemma. I couldn't get red buttons for a period of time. They were all out of stock, so I had these as yellow, and then I didn't know if I want to keep it yellow or go back to red, and eventually I just did the RGB look across the front here. That is, well, that is how it's called out in the instruction manual for a lot of the CPS2 games, so that's what I rolled with. But I think the big thing about this one, aside from the Q-Sound speakers and amp that are inside of this, is obviously the marquee is huge on these and really makes a statement here in the basement. The other thing I'll note, again, just like many of the cabs down here, this is capable of running any CPS2 game. So I'll go down here and you can see I can cycle through on this LCD. I have the ability to then boot any of these games up on this machine. And here we go. You can see Mars Matrix now running on the Capcom Big Blue. Very easy to switch between CPS2 games on this cabinet. All right, moving on down the line. Smash TV. This was a huge pickup this summer. $600 for the actual cabinet with original side art. It's going to be really tough for me to get in there and show that to you right now. Go back and watch one of the other videos that I've done. Now, the biggest thing about this was the control panel on this was completely wrecked when I got it. So it needed a new control panel, new art, new sticks. Much like the Konami cabinet I just showed, These are reproduction Wicco sticks, no switches. You don't hear any of those clicks. I needed 4 of those. That was not cheap, so go ahead and add a little bit to that $600 price point. But you know, this is a Smash TV cabinet. It's, I don't want to say highly sought after, but it is one of the more desirable cabinets that I see people go after, and can cost well into 4 figures, and you know, people pay that. So reproduction marquee on this one. The panel we've already talked about, and I did talk a little bit about this before. The glass that's on this now has this graphic. It kind of ties everything together, the theme of the cabinet. But these cameras that you're seeing, you can see they obscure some of the screen, and that causes problems when you're playing the game. I've come to really not like this, and I would say anyone that's doing a Smash TV cabinet, I probably would avoid this on the 25-inch monitor, and I would just get normal glass to replace this, because this just is not, it's not ideal for actually playing the game. It looks nice, but you know, if you actually play your games, and you should, not ideal at all. But this is my Smash TV. It does run Total Carnage as well. I'm not going to climb behind there and show that, but this cabinet does run 2 games. All right, last in the aisle, and certainly not least, Daytona USA. I've not done a ton of restoration work on this. The biggest thing probably is just cleaning it up, like literally cleaning it. And then I replaced all of these lights that you're seeing in the marquee. There's a big 3 or 4, I think it's 4-foot LED tube that goes across now inside. And then I had to get LED bulbs for each of the sections where it says race leader, so that blinks, lights up. One of the monitors had vertical collapse. Actually, you can probably see on this screen that line that goes through the center, because somebody was just running this with vertical collapse, and so they just burned that white line right into the monitor, which sucks. You can't get that out. But both of the monitors for the most part look pretty good. The machine works. It's 100% working, meaning I got force feedback in the wheels, obviously the pedals, everything on this works. Lights. I did have to get new shifters. So you notice these are these ball tops, whereas the originals were actual sticks, but these actually work really well. It's a bit of a bummer that I don't have the sticks, but you know, what are you going to do? I wanted to be able to manually shift, and rebuilding those originals was proving to be a little bit more complex, and I had some problems with it, so I just went with the reproduction sticks here, which use the ball tops. Daytona USA probably will not surprise you. By far the most played game in the basement amongst casuals, and it's still as good a time as it was back in the 90s. Love this machine. All right, even though it's not technically in the aisle, this is another one of my pride and joys, Virtua Racing. 100% working, again, meaning we've got force feedback going on in the steering wheels. Foot pedals are working, the shifters are working on this. Did a considerable amount of work on this machine. Only one side worked when I originally got this. None of the lights were in. These are all LED replacements in both the marquee up top here that you're looking at, as well as down below on the back of the seat, which is really cool. I love that double marquee look from, you know, the back, on the back of the bench, and then again right up top here above the screens. Obviously you got the 2 dual screens and lighting everything up. This red plastic bench with the speakers across the back. This is just it's a really cool cabinet that I think a lot of people forget about this game. Everybody gives a lot of love to Daytona, but Virtua Racing really kicking off some serious racing action in the arcades on Sega's part. So this is a great machine. Both monitors were redone. I did outsource those to Chad to take care of those for me, because there was a little bit more going on than what I felt comfortable handling. It wasn't a simple cap kit and flyback on these. There were some other components that needed needed to be troubleshooted, is that a word? And he did that for me and took care of it. There's a weird like vertical line on the monitor on this side as well as the other. It's tough to see, probably can't really see it on the camera, and it might be tough to even see on this side, but it's not really noticeable while you're playing the game either, but it does annoy me, and I haven't been able to quite figure out what that's from, even though I've adjusted tons of settings on the monitor itself and fooled with it and made sure it was grounded, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, Virtua Racing, this was another $400 deal that a woman dropped off in my front yard at 2:30 in the morning. Another tale of arcade collecting. All right, the last machine I'm going to show today, and I don't know why I decided to end on a somewhat sour note. I mean, it's not all bad. I spent some time on the monitor here, just like I typically have done for these other machines. This is Sega Cap kit and a new flyback. Looks pretty good overall. There is some burn-in on the tube, but nothing terrible. I've also spent some time working on the guns. So the recoil action works on these guns again. The lights, sensors up here, those work. Calibrate just fine. Where things start to fall apart is on the actual, well, quite literally in some cases, the body of the cabinet. You can see like I've got this chip up here, and Midway used some kind of like, I don't know, this was on Smash TV too. There's some kind of like, it's like a vinyl overlay that goes over the wood, and this all just peels off. So I can redo this. There's some holes and dings and stuff. The front of this really isn't going to be a problem. The problem starts on the side, where I've got this chunk missing on the back, which has been like that since I got the cabinet. And you can see the artwork is starting to peel, and I'm missing, just all the way down the side here. And it's a conundrum because, I don't know, would you give this maybe a C grade for the side here? It's not, there's no real damage to it aside from the edges. Now the ink is fading, which is very typical for a Midway cabinet. I mean, this looks like it's pink as opposed to red, and I mean, you can see on the T-molding that comes through here where this is red T-molding, and where this should match, it's turned pink. I've gone back and forth, and I think what I am going to do at this point, I am going to redo this entire side. Well, I'm going to do both sides because it'll need to match. So that's going to be a project this summer. I'll do that. I'll fix the front. I already have a new marquee for this that will look a little bit cleaner than what's on here. I mean, this is original, but it's really faded. And if I'm redoing the whole thing and it's going to look new-ish, then I might as well put the new marquee on there. Like I've shown this before. This is from Sabo's Arcades. You can see, I mean, this is just a lot nicer looking than the original. So Terminator 2 needs some work. It's going to be a lot of work to strip this down, but I did G.I. Joe. I think I can handle this, and this will look pretty good once I'm done. So that is the tour of the basement arcade. Kudos to you if you lasted the full duration and are actually watching this end segment. Again, feel free to ask questions if you saw something you didn't quite understand, or if you just have questions about something, drop those in the comments below. Thank you so much for spending the time today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time. Later, guys.